G'day guys, and today we've got to come back to the Jussie Smollett case. Now obviously since it was revealed, Smollett's case may not be exactly airtight, so to speak, as we'll see, and the narrative of, white man bad, Trump bad, orange man bad, and that sort of thing. Once that narrative was exposed as being, potentially fabricated, it was dropped like a hot rock by the mainstream media, and everyone pretended that they never jumped on the bandwagon. You had that hilarious interview and the question posed to Kamala Harris, amongst other people who very quickly jumped on the bandwagon before reports were verified. But we need to return to this case because the story doesn't actually end with Jussie Smollett getting off scot-free, and that's where most of the attention sort of dropped off once it was revealed that Jussie got essentially a slap on the wrist, some community service, and he had to repay his bond. People's attention dropped off, but what we really need to look into is why he got off scot-free. And there's been more and more information coming to light, and especially recently, that we'll be able to look into, looking at sort of the way the Chicago legal system worked, and the way perhaps certain wheels were greased in order to get him let off. So corruption in Chicago is not new news, but I don't think it's something we should sweep under the rug. So just to recap the story for those who have been in a coma for the start of 2019. On the night of January 29th, 2019, Jussie Smollett, a gay black actor, claimed he was the victim of a racist, homophobic attack by two men wearing MAGA hats. Now, what came to light was some evidence to the contrary of his story, and it was therefore promulgated by the alternative media and attempted to be branded as a conspiracy theory by the legacy media. Now, I won't go into all of this because it's been talked about ad nauseum. Paul Joseph Watson was really good talking about this. The Hodge twins were really good about talking about this in their own sort of infotainment style, but it's been done to death, and I don't need to talk about that. So Jussie eventually had 16 counts of felony disorderly conduct brought against him, and he was facing up to 3 years in prison. So Jussie's case was overviewed by the Cook County State Attorney's Office, which is headed by a lady known as Kim Foxx. And essentially the culmination of this case was that Smollett's defense team reached a deal with the prosecutors on March 26, 2019, in which all charges were dropped in return for Smollett performing, as I mentioned, community service and forfeiting his $10,000 bond. This promoted uproar from the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, police superintendent Eddie Johnson, and many independent commentators. Interestingly, or perhaps damnably, the court files relating to his case have since been sealed, and we can't take a look at them. So the lady I mentioned there, Kim Foxx, the head of the Cook County State Attorney's Office. Now she's very interesting because it has been proposed that she has essentially performed an unethical legal act, and we'll get into that here. So it has been revealed that Kim Foxx was reached out to by Tina Tchen, the former chief of staff for Michelle Obama. Tchen put Foxx in contact with a member of Smollett's family, resulting in several on-the-phone conversations, which you should be able to see on screen right now. I have the text messages and the emails that were exchanged. Foxx then claimed to recuse herself from the case due to potential questions of impartiality based upon familiarity with potential witnesses in the case, and this is clearly a reference to speaking to the aforementioned family member. Now, I'm not any kind of legal expert. I'm not even a couch potato legal expert who just watches Suits on Netflix or anything like that. No real knowledge in my head, but clearly if your prosecutor or if your head of the case is, speaking to potential witnesses, they cannot be said to be impartial anymore, so they should, in my mind, recuse themselves. However, what was later revealed was that Foxx never officially recused herself. So Kiera Ellis, a spokeswoman for the State Attorney's Office, said in a statement that Foxx did not formally recuse herself or the State Attorney's Office based on any actual conflict of interest. As a result, she did not have to seek the appointment of a special prosecutor. It was a colloquial use of the term, rather than in its legal sense. So here we can see some foot shuffling and some bait and switching, because it was widely reported on that she had recused herself, because this was a bit of an issue. But this isn't the case, despite the fact that she was, having a conflict of interest by speaking to, Smollett's family member. Foxx has appeared not to deem it necessary to recuse either herself or the state's attorney office from overseeing this case. So under Illinois law, in the event of a conflict of interest, the court could have appointed a special prosecutor or independent person to replace Foxx in her office. In the event of a formal recusal, this should have taken place, but obviously a formal recusal did not take place. Now keep in mind, they could have appointed an independent person to replace Foxx in his office, so this special prosecutor could have been someone from outside the Cook County State Attorney's office. Now, this is very interesting because clearly, in my mind, and again I'm no legal expert and I can't claim to know what Foxx is thinking for sure, but I can sort of rationally determine that she wants to keep it in-house, so to speak. So instead of recusing herself or her office, what Foxx has instead done has stood back from the case and appointed her first assistant state's attorney, Joseph Maggots, to oversee the case. This decision has been criticized as unethical by the Illinois Prosecutors Bar Association, as Foxx could still have held major sway over the case. Keep in mind that Foxx is Maggots' boss, and Foxx can still weigh in on the case, she's just not directly overseeing it herself. And as people have pointed out, is this Maggots really going to go against her boss? And this is the perfect kind of excuse for Foxx to take a hands-off approach, but still have, plenty of sway over the case. It gives her plausible deniability, but it still gives her utmost power to do what she wants. So, it would appear that there was a conflict of interest, or at least, as it was mentioned, questions of impartiality, based upon this familiarity with potential witnesses. So again, I'm no legal expert, but would it appear to me that Foxx's office had no authority to continue ruling over Smollett's case, and therefore had no authority to dismiss all of 16 of Smollett's charges as they did. Because if there is this conflict of interest, and they should have recused themselves and they haven't, well, they don't have an authority to continue ruling over this case, as I see it. Now obviously this appears very fishy, not just to me, but to a lot of other people. The mayor in particular was extremely annoyed about what had occurred. He called it a whitewashing of justice. And this hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't been just impotent rage online and the ramblings of someone with a microphone. On March 27, it was announced that the FBI would be investigating as to why the charges were dismissed. Because again, it does look incredibly suspicious that she would recuse herself, kind of, but not really, and then give herself this potentially plausible deniability. So what has recently broken, and what got my attention back on this case, is that on April 28th, Foxx has now been subpoenaed to appear at a hearing over a handling of Smollett's case. So she has to appear at this hearing or get in a lot of trouble. And the people organising this hearing, it's a retired judge, wants Smollett to be there too. So clearly, as I mentioned before, a lot of people think something fishy is going on. That's all the information I have at this time. People have proposed a conspiracy theory that the Obama family has been responsible in sort of the handling of this case, and because, I'll explain the link to the Obamas that these people think. Again, I cannot support this idea because I'm an empiricist and there's no hard evidence. There is only circumstance and a sort of a rational train of thought. So Smollett has an established relationship with Michelle Obama. They seem to be on chummy terms. And as I mentioned before, Tina Shen was Michelle Obama's chief of staff. Now, as I mentioned again, Tina Shen was the one who put Jussie Smollett's family member in contact with Kim Foxx. So essentially what some people have done is postulated that is the Obama family that could have had a hand in the mishandling of Jussie Smollett's case, sort of encouraging people to do certain things because they're essentially protecting one of their own. Again, I cannot endorse this idea because, again, I'm an empiricist and I need actual, I like facts, and this is all circumstantial stuff at the moment, but it's worth mentioning because people seem interested in it, and I'm not just going to dismiss something out of hand because people might frown on it and call me a conspiracy theorist. But again, not endorsing the idea, it's just what some people think. What I really want to do with this video is draw attention to the why behind the what, so to speak. So the what in question is Jussie Smollett's case being dropped and him getting off essentially scot-free. Now that's very annoying, but what we need to do is a very fundamental question, and this question doesn't just relate to this case, it relates to a lot of things. Beyond looking at just the event, we need to ask ourselves why that occurred. And to me, what appears to have happened is an unethical miscarriage of justice in which someone with a conflict of interest, this Foxx lady, this head of the state attorney's office, has failed to recuse herself and has allowed herself to improperly stay on with this case and potentially influence it. Now, the final piece of information to this puzzle is the fact that several people have resigned from this Cook County State Attorney's Office, including their Chief Ethics Officer. I don't believe that's the official title of the job, but he's essentially, I believe, the guy who's making sure everything's ethical and above board. So a few people have quit, which would lend you, again, an idea I can't endorse, but we can sort of postulate that there may be internal squabbling with people, not happy with the way things have done, and then they've therefore resigned. It is unconfirmed whether these people have been fired or not. They've neither confirmed nor denied this. All we know is that at least 3 people, including the Chief Officer of Ethics, have left the Cook County State Attorney's Office. So yes, it's really important that this information gets everywhere. Spread this video, spread this idea, make your own video on the topic, look into it more. I'm just one guy, perhaps you're better at looking into things than I am, but please, this idea needs to spread around. We don't need to focus and then lose attention once the what is done. We know what the what is. Jussie Smollett essentially got off absolutely scot-free from, in my mind, faking a hate crime that could have led to some serious violence. There could have been, potentially race riots over this and people actually getting lynched. And it also has the unfortunate side effect of people, and this has been a trend quite a bit actually, unfortunately there's been a lot of faked racial hate crimes recently in the States, and it's tragic to say, but all this really does is unfortunately detract from real hate crimes, because if someone genuinely does get attacked and rope around the neck and bleach foam on them, people are going to find it more difficult to believe them now because of Jussie Smollett and people like him who go around faking these hate crimes for, it appears, for his own fiscal gain, but some people just do it to spread awareness, and they do it because they think they can get away with it. And it would appear that the legal system in Chicago, at least, is helping them do this. So please spread this idea, spread this video, let me know what you think down below, and as always, thanks for sticking around, and have a good one.